What is problem-based learning? First, let's review the traditional instructional process. Students are presented with information or facts. Students are given activities that require the facts, practice the facts, and even apply the facts. Students are assessed using quizzes, tests, essays, or some other way to regurgitate the facts back to the teacher. In this traditional teacher-centered instruction, students are passive recipients of knowledge. The students aren't engaged in critical thinking. There's no focus on process or big concepts. There is no self-directed learning, and it generally doesn't allow for group practice or team projects. It's an artificial way to learn that doesn't prepare students for real-world problem solving. In problem-based learning, or PBL for short, students are put into small groups in order to work collaboratively. All groups are presented with the same body of information, which contains but doesn't identify the relevant facts. Students are given real-world problems to solve based on the information given, and must engage in a process of discussing ideas of how to solve the problem, sift through the information to identify the pertinent facts, list what they think they know, and decide if they need more information, and then make a plan about what needs to be done to solve the problem. Once complete, they analyze and revise their plan based on new information discovered in the initial process. Complex real-world problems lead to complex real-world answers. With different groups of students being assigned the same problem, each group will find its own pathway to a unique solution to that problem. Two key components to PBL are that there is no one right answer and that there is no one pathway to that answer. In this process, the teacher transforms from instructor to advisor, assisting the self-directed learning of the student groups. Some ways the teacher can support the student groups are by asking key questions to help student groups maintain focus, and by suggesting search tools or information resources, though not directly guide the groups to specific information. Students are assessed not just on facts, but on the process and the solution. Additional parts of the assessment are student self-evaluation and student peer evaluation. Let's step through the process. Starting a new problem. 1. Set the problem. 2. Bring the problem home by making it complex, realistic, and relevant to the students. 3. Describe the product performance required. 4. Assign tasks, roles within the group, and have students begin analyzing the problem. On a whiteboard, large notepad, or shared electronic document, have the group create a chart with 4 headings: ideas and hypotheses, facts, learning issues, and action plan. Ideas and hypotheses. Students explore the problem, may involve discussing causation, effect, possible resolution, etc. Facts. Through a synthesis of information obtained through inquiry, the important information starts to be identified. Learning issues. Students list what they need to know or understand in order to complete the task. This can include information not included in the presentation of the problem. Action plan. Things that need to be done in order to complete the problem task. 5. Reasoning through the problem. What to do with the information on the chart. Ideas, hypotheses. Expand focus. Facts. Synthesize and resynthesize. Learning issues. Identify, justify. Action plan. Formulate plan. 6. Commitment to probable outcome. 7. Learning issue shaping the assessment. 8. Resource identification. 9. Schedule follow-up. At this point, the groups are off and running. Working together, they start to piece together information and formulate a solution. A problem follow-up session is scheduled to help the students refocus on the process and revisit and revise their problem-solving chart. This follow-up section can be repeated formally in class or informally by the students. Problem follow-up. 1. Resources used are identified and critiqued. 2. The problem is reassessed. What to do with the information on the chart. Ideas and hypotheses, revise. Facts, apply new knowledge and resynthesize. Learning issues, identify new, if necessary. Action plan, redesign, decision. Next, we have the performance presentation. The students will present their solutions. Each group will have a unique solution and pathway to that solution. Thus, those solutions need to be explored and synthesized. After the conclusion of the problem. 1. Knowledge abstraction, extraction, and summary. Develop definitions, diagrams, lists, concepts, abstractions, and principles. 2. Self-evaluation, followed by comments from the group, aka peer evaluation. Reasoning through the problem, digging out information, assisting the group with its tasks, gaining or refining. This final reflection is critical. It helps students internalize the successful strategies and processes used. It illustrates their own strengths and weaknesses with reference to problem solving. It also helps the student develop strategies for working in groups.
Now that we have learned about the problem-based learning or PBL process, let's see some examples of it in action. There are a ton of examples of PBL in medicine. That's no coincidence because PBL first emerged in medical education at McMaster University School of Medicine in Toronto in the late 1960s. Traditional instructional delivery methods in medicine had been known for inundating its learners with volumes of dense scientific information, lacking any context, while PBL revolutionized the process, bringing relevance and practical applications, leading to increased student motivation to learn the material. The University of New Mexico was the first school of medicine to adopt a PBL curriculum in the United States, and most medical schools across North America now use PBL today. Common features of PBL in a medical education setting include small groups of 8 to 10 students, a faculty member playing the role of facilitator or guide for each group, and the discussion of a clinically based problem. Groups often work together on what initially appears to be a straightforward issue, but with the progressive disclosure of supporting evidence, they realize that an alternate diagnosis is better supported. This process may take place over one or multiple sessions, with students researching information and reporting back on their findings at subsequent meetings in order to advance the case discussion. They may consider complex societal problems such as homelessness, substance abuse, and intimate partner violence as those intersect with the treatment considerations for a patient they discuss. PBL in medicine is characterized by these twists and turns, much like real-world clinical care, and the more authentic the case, the better the PBL experience prepares its learners for the future. There are countless PBL examples in nursing, dental medicine, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and other healthcare educational offerings. While PBL has shown itself to be useful in healthcare education, what about its applicability elsewhere? Rita Kumar and Brenda Refaei at the University of Cincinnati demonstrated the ability of problem-based learning to foster critical thinking skills in college students. Specifically, they examined work performed by students in a second-year writing course who had completed PBL exercises through a pre-post-test analysis. Kumar and Refaei found that PBL pedagogy improved their critical thinking as reflected in the writing samples. In addition to these great examples of PBL in higher education, you can also find problem-based learning taking place in high school, junior high, and even elementary schools. The vast majority of published cases discuss interventions to improve critical thinking in science, engineering, and mathematics as a subject matter. However, as the writing exercise at the University of Cincinnati revealed, PBL can have a much broader reach. It may be that its evolution is still a work in progress, as we gain a better understanding of all the potential uses of PBL.
As an instructional designer, it's important to provide the right resources to an instructor facilitating a PBL that you have designed. We recommend providing a facilitator's guide that includes a basic introduction to PBL so that if the instructor is not familiar with the process, they will be able to run a smooth PBL experience. The facilitator's guide should include an introduction to the exercise's goals, estimated length of time for the exercise, and other key details for the PBL plan. This should also include best practices for supporting PBL teams. It's important that the teacher understands they are an advisor and should help direct the group as needed, but should not do too much to point learners towards solutions. The guide should include example solutions to the problem, However, it's also important to stress to the instructor that PBL is about the student's journey to the answer as much as it is about their answer. It should also include a sample student evaluation form, a sample student peer evaluation form, and a sample group agreement to help guide the self-learning aspects of PBL. There are a few key questions to ask yourself before implementing PBL. How and when will student groups work on the problem together? Students need to be able to engage with their team continuously throughout the problem-solving process. This does not need to be in person, but students must be able to communicate their thoughts and research among their team throughout the problem-solving period. Will the problem be worked on during instruction periods, or will students be determining their own schedule for their group? If students are working on PBL together remotely, consider grouping students with similar schedules onto the same team. PBL thrives on open discussion and brainstorming, so in a remote environment, it's ideal for students to have the ability to speak directly to each other through video or phone calls. Will students have a way to access outside information that will help them understand the problem or case? Part of the goal of PBL is for students to learn how to identify resources independently. So typically information is included with the problem, but it may not be all of the information that students will need. If learners will not have access to a library, the internet, or another method of researching, it may hinder PBL. Does the learning experience have an appropriate level of staff to support PBL? PBL is most effective when an instructor or tutor is available to guide students as needed and when requested. If the instructor of a course is not able to give a timely response when students have a question, PBL may not be a great fit. What opportunities for multidisciplinary learning are there? Analyze learning goals across subject areas to find opportunities for a multidisciplinary problem.